Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Mataraz, and I'm one of the instructors through BC Campus teaching the Applied Business Technology course. I'm out of North Island College on Vancouver Island, and I have probably 250 students a year that I see. Actually, I don't see them. It's all virtual. But I do correspond with them, and I've been doing this instruction for about 10 years now in classroom settings as well as online. So I thought that now it's time to actually show a video of the way to get onto the courses and some of the protocols and etiquettes to follow. So for this example, I'm going to use a course that I taught last year, the Introduction to Computers course. Most of the courses are laid out in the same manner, so it shouldn't be that different from your course. Now I'm just going to change my role here to student so that it looks the same as yours. So when you first log into your course, you'll see the navigation pane at the top. And this will have the course home, which will take you back to this screen. The assessments, if you do the drop down, there's a drop box. That's where many of the hand-in assignments will be uploaded to. So if I click on the drop box, it'll show different assignments that need to be submitted. And if you click on an assignment section, it'll very often have the instructions for the assignment as well as a document and a hyperlink that you can open up and download. There's also a quiz section. And in many of the courses, they'll have online quizzes that you can go through. Some are for marks, some are for practice. And right off the bat, I would say that to be successful in the course, you should do everything that's asked of you within the course. So if an instructor or within the course content, it says, hey, here's a practice exam or here's a practice quiz that you can do before tackling the real quiz, there's an adage, an expression that says, practice makes perfect. And going through these practice quizzes will help to ensure your success throughout the entire course. Under the Communications tab, there's the discussion, email, class list. There's also a pager and chat and blog. I don't run a blog on my sites. And also the pager. The pager is something that can be beneficial if the instructor happens to be online at the time. However, many instructors only teach one course a term and they have other jobs going on. So they'll very often be away from the computer. So I've found for myself that the pager option doesn't work. Sending an email is usually the best option. Or if you have a question regarding some of the course content, use a discussion group and post the question within the discussion group. There's a very robust and varied number of people that take these courses. Some are already experts and they're just trying to expand their credentials and get a diploma and finish this stuff off or a certificate. And they can very often answer questions sooner than an instructor can. So don't be shy. Go online, ask the question. Very often there's probably 5, 6, 7, 10, maybe even half the class is thinking the same thing, thinking the same question. If you put it in there and then there's somebody that says, oh yeah, sure, I ran into that before and this is the answer, then it will help. If it's not the answer, the instructors will look at the discussion groups when they're in the classroom, when they've devoted their time to this course, and they'll go through that and they can actually set things straight. So part of the learning process is actually making mistakes. So don't ever be afraid to make mistakes. That's how people learn. When you learn to walk, you learn to fall. That's the thing. When you are learning a new skill, learning how to write, you make spelling mistakes. When you're learning mathematics, you make errors in calculations. It's just the reality of it. If we all knew everything, then we wouldn't even have to take the courses. We'd all be instructors doing this stuff. Under the course materials, it has the content. That's the main area that you'd be looking at. The content's also available through the content browser on the right-hand side. And then there's some help and some other tools that if you need D2L help, you can go in there. I don't know of many students that have actually gone into the D2L help area, but it's there. This area, the news group area, very, very, very important area to look at. This is where the instructor will post important time-sensitive information or general news about the course. So last year, I actually had a death in the family and I was going to be away from my course for the period of 3 or 4 days while I was dealing with that. So that's where I put it up just to say, hey, everybody, I'm away from the course. I'm sorry that I won't be available to answer any messages. If you need stuff or specific questions or queries, here's an alternate contact email or something like that. So this will have different information. In this one, it actually says, click on the content on the navigation bar above. and then complete the steps in the Getting Started module. The content browser on the side as well has the Getting Started module, so I'll just jump into there right now. When you click on the content browser, Getting Started, there'll be all sorts of information. Now, please, please, please don't just gloss over this stuff. Don't skip and just run right into the assignments. There's a lot of good information that can show up in these. There's some information that's a little bit pedantic. It's just there, and it's the default information. But within that stuff, there is very often some tidbits that will help you within the course. So for example, I go into the introduction in this course, and while it loads, so here's the introduction. Welcome to the course, blah, blah, blah. It's organized into 3 modules. Okay, this is important. So there's a Getting Started module, Windows module, and the Internet. You can see a listing of the course materials and topics at any time by clicking on the course materials in the navigation bar. Okay, so this is some information about how to navigate around the course. And as I go through it, it mentions that there's hyperlinks available. So looking for things that have underlines that are in blue, discussion links, for example. Watching training videos, watching videos. There's all sorts of stuff in here. Once I get down to the bottom of this page, and I'm glossing over it because I'm trying to keep these videos brief, but as I get down to the bottom of the page, there's the arrows that'll take me to the next part of this section. So after the introduction section, there's the table of contents, the Getting Started, introduction. I click on the next link. That will take me to the welcome and introductions. And this is where you would put in information about yourself and just let people know who you are and what you're hoping to get from the course. In this one, it's like, whoa, look at me, it's Natasha. And she says, whoops, I'm a week behind everybody. She came in late from a different thing. She's doing online courses. She currently has 4 courses on the go and work full-time plus hours, or she works full-time plus hours as a retail manager, wishing everyone the best of luck. So this helps build the community. It's an important step. So, put something in. I have my introduction that goes in there for the courses as well. That's me, Christian Mataraz, Amy Miller put in a thing. And it lets people know that different locations where people are at. And I've actually seen some friendships develop when people are taking these courses and they're actually in the same town or close to the same towns, and they've ended up becoming friends or study buddies and stuff like that. Next section, the course description. This is right off the BC Campus website. And this has some important information as well. So the first thing it says the hours. This is the estimated number of hours it will take you to complete the course. So in this course, it says it's probably 50 hours. It'll give a brief description of the course, the Windows section, as well as learning outcomes, so what you can expect to get from this course. And this section is actually valuable if you're applying for jobs and you have to fill out a resume. This will give you some ideas of some of the tasks, some of the skills you've actually picked up from the school that you can place onto these resumes. The required text. In this course, there was actually no text, but this will tell you which version, which edition of the text you should be having. The course length. Introduction to Computers and Internet course will take approximately 50 hours to complete in a scheduled 10-week period. So the 10-week period means that there's going to be 5 hours a week that you need to devote to this course at least. To be safe, I might even say 8 hours a week, at least to start. And this is the first major tip I have for you, excuse me, that when you're doing, you're planning for the course, and this is it. This is the tip. So are you listening? Plan your time. The reason that people fail these courses or aren't successful in these courses is that they haven't planned their time. They plan to do the assignments, or they've had the intention to do the assignment, but they haven't actually set a specific date and time to do that. They know that the assignment for my classes, my assignments are due Sunday evening. So they know that the assignment's due Sunday evening, so they'll start tackling it Sunday morning, or they'll tackle it on Saturday afternoon, even though the assignment was given to them the previous Monday or the previous Sunday. So now they're trying to cram a 5-hour block of time into a Saturday evening before the assignment's due, when all sorts of other stuff could come up. So if you plan your time properly and start spacing it out and just chip away at this stuff every single day, chip away for 20 minutes or 10 minutes, just chip away, chip away, chip away, you'll find that you have way less stress and you'll have way more success in these courses. Lastly, the assessments. So in this course, it says there's 50% based on the Windows content, which is broken down as assignments and final assessments, 50% on the internet. So your course, when you take it, will also have a similar assessment thing. So it'll let you know what the grading scheme will be. You know, what's the final test worth? Well, in this thing, the final assessment is worth 20% of the grade. Lastly, withdrawing or dropping out of a course. If you decide that this course isn't for you and you would not want to drop out, you can tell your instructor. However, we can't withdraw people from courses. We can take you off of our class list. But to actually withdraw, you'll have to talk to your program coordinator at your registered institution and have them formally withdraw you from the course. And they will very often then send us an email. It's good for you to send us an email as well, just in case that part of the chain breaks. But do go do that. Talk to the program coordinator, because they can very often give you a refund, or at least give you some options of what to do after that step. Okay, so that's the sort of basic outline of the course. Now, the other things that I wanted to talk about, when you're going through the different lessons and everything else, again, there's a lot of stuff that's there. Don't just skip down to the assignment. Go through and do the reading. You may not feel like it right now, but we're quite privileged to have the ability to have access to learning, and have access to learning from our own homes. There's many people all around the world that don't have this sort of gift that's given to them. So I encourage you, as you're going through this stuff, to really relish in the fact that you're learning. Now, learning doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be comfortable. That's the thing with learning, is that sometimes you fall. Sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes it's not very comfortable. Whenever there's growth, there's a little bit of pressure. There's a little bit of stress. There's a little bit of discomfort. And when you have those feelings, just remind yourself, this is exactly where you need to be. So go through and do all of the reading on the assignments, and do all of the suggested work. As you're going through the work, I'll tell you this right now, you're going to find errors in the text or errors in the course content. It's unavoidable. There's nothing that we can do. So for example, in this course, there's a section that says, what software are you using? And this course, although I'm very proficient with computers. I actually used to have a business that we built computers from scratch and installed the software, and I did computer training and consulting, all sorts of stuff. This course I found very challenging, simply because in the last 5 years, the Windows micro system has changed 5 times. So it used to be that we were using Windows XPs, and then we started using Windows Vista. Actually, there was Windows ME in there as well. And then we had Windows Vista, and then we went to Windows 8, and then we went to Windows 7, and then we went to Windows 8, and then 8.1, which had some changes, and now we're on Windows 10. So it seems now like every 2 years they introduce a new version of Windows. So to accommodate students' needs, we had to start going through the course and saying, well, if you have a Windows XP screen, it'll look like this. However, if you're going to have a Windows 7 screen, it's going to look like this. Or if you have a Windows 8 screen, it may look like this. Or Windows 10 will look like this. And we're trying to accommodate everything and sort of throwing Band-Aid fixes on to try to cover everything. And we haven't even touched on the different Mac software. Or now that there's Google Books coming out, I don't know if that's going to change anything at all either. I'm not familiar with that. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening that we just cannot be perfect with. We can't go through and make every single change. And sometimes the textbooks that we have will also have errors. So if you do encounter errors, be gentle with the instructors. We don't create the courses. We fix them, and we do what we can to navigate through them, but we don't create them. So if there is an error, you can ask a question. Also ask the question in the discussion group, because very often there'll be other students that may have already come across this and either found out for themselves or asked the instructor. So throw it in the discussion group so that everyone can see it and say, hey, did anyone find that this was sort of strange? And someone may say, yeah, in fact, Christian responded to my question a few days ago and said that this is an error. And then that way it all gets resolved for everybody at once, rather than having 30 emails come to me with the same error, and I'm trying to respond to everybody else. And I don't want to clutter up the news feed with just error files saying, oh, here's an error, here's an error. So that would help. The discussion group is a great area to go into. There's a lot of information within the textbook. There's a lot of information available online, information available through the course content. However, a lot of the learning that occurs when people ask questions and respond to questions within the discussion group. So, as for assignments, regarding the assignments, oh, you know what? I forgot one really important thing. The schedule. So through the getting started, there's always going to be a schedule. So this will have the name of the course, the scheduled dates of the course, April 4th to June 10th. Now these dates are really important because June 10th is the last day of the course. That's done. That's the final swan song. Nothing else can be accepted after that date of the course, because as an instructor, I have to get my marks in. So every year I have students asking me, oh, is it okay if I hand in my assignment on June 15th? And I say, no, the end of the course is June the 10th. I get paid for this course, and I get paid based on the fact that it runs from April 4th to June the 10th. After that, I've got another course that I'm working on and getting paid for and allocating my time to. So there should be no reason why assignments are being handed in after the due date, other than the time management issue that I mentioned before. So these dates are really important. June 10th means everything gets handed in. June 10th means your final exam's been written. So look at the schedule. Also look in this small area. It says late assignments will receive a 2% deduction per day late past the due dates. Now that's my policy. Other instructors have different policies. So this is a very important section to read. Also, assignments or tests will not be graded if over 1 week late. So after something's been 1 week overdue, you'll get a 0. And that might sound really harsh. However, what I've found is that when I didn't have this policy in place, and when other instructors didn't have this policy in place, students were handing stuff in all the time. And it becomes disruptive from the instructor's point of view for marking. And also I found it was a little bit disrespectful to the students that had made sacrifices during the week to get assignments in on time, and then have another student that says, oh yeah, sure, you know, I just handed in all my stuff in the last week of the course and I've passed. And I thought that's not fair to the people that plan their time and sacrifice some other things during the term so they could get their assignments on time. So make sure you look at these policies so that you're very well aware of when the assignments are due and what will happen if you hand in an assignment late. The outline will look very similar to this. It'll have week 1 with a due date and let you know what has to be handed in through the assignment section, as well as the grades for it. So have a look through that schedule, print it off. Sometimes it'll just say week 1 and there won't be a due date. So you'll have to take out a calendar and print this off, take out a calendar and write in from the start of the course for the first week, what's the due date going to be? And then confirm with your instructor and say, you know, there's no due days written down. What day do you expect to have these in? Is it Friday? Is it Saturday? Is it Sunday? Is it the following Monday? And they can clear things up. But most instructors will have a due date written down. When you're within the Dropbox area, as I showed before, there'll be an assignment. So after you go through the instructions and you complete the assignment and you go back into the Dropbox area, you would add a file. You can drop a little comment if you want and then hit submit. And that file, that assignment file, will go into your Dropbox for the instructor to review and grade. And then once the instructor has gone through and graded the assignment, then you can go to the grade section under the assessments, and it will show you the different grades that you've gotten for this course. Okay. And another note. I'm just going through my notes here. So another thing regarding proper time management. So proper time management means that you take the course seriously and you hand in the assignments on time. Now there are situations that arise. So for example, last year when the fires were going through Alberta, and there were people that had to evacuate. That's a situation that is an emergency. And when I had students telling me, hey, like we're pulling out and I can't get my assignment on time, of course I'm not going to penalize them for handing in their assignments late. That's an emergency. That's outside their control. However, there are certain things that are not emergencies. So let me say some things that are emergencies. A death of a family member. That's something that is traumatic and out of your control. Serious illness. That's out of your control. A natural emergency, that's out of your control. Having to work more than the regular hours that you thought you had to work, that's out of your control. However, if you have a 40-hour-a-week job and you're consistently saying, I can't get my assignment on time because I had to work this week, that's not an emergency. That has to do with planning. And if you find that you're consistently being late with the assignments because you're working too much, then I really suggest that you look at whether this is the right time for you to be taking a course or not. And I'm not suggesting that you drop out of a course because you're working full time. What I suggest is that you have better time management skills and actually look at it and weigh whether the amount of stress involved in having a life and a full-time job and taking the course is worth it. So just look at that. Also, I've had people that will ask me, they'll say, oh, I couldn't hand in my assignment because my child was sick. And I'll say, your child was sick for the entire week? That's horrible. And they'll say, well, no, my child was sick on Saturday night and the assignment's due Sunday morning. I say, well, that's not an emergency, because if your child was sick on Saturday night, you had the entire week to do this work ahead of time. So again, part of managing your time is making sure that you're not leaving it to the very last possible second when life can get in the way. So poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. That's an expression that I actually have posted in my office. So that when people come in the last minute of the month and they say, I haven't filed this and it's going to be late, I'm saying, you're right, it's probably going to be late because I've got other things that I've managed my time for. And so coming to me in the last minute, asking me to do something in the last minute because you put it off for 30 or 60 days doesn't constitute me having to drop everything else. So it might sound a little bit harsh, but I'm very, very pro time management. And I think that if everyone will learn some time management skills through these courses, you'll have so much success. And it might not feel like it at the time as you're budgeting the work that you're going to be doing, but you'll have way less stress in your life as well. So the last thing that I want to say is regarding the assessments, the examinations. Many of the courses will have midterm exams. Many of those midterm exams do not need somebody looking over your shoulder. They do not need an invigilating center or an invigilator. They're usually just written online. Now, there are a few exceptions, and just double check with your instructor. But for the most part, midterm exams do not need to be written outside of your home. However, final exams do. Final exams need to be invigilated either at your college campus or at a university campus or at an approved invigilation center. And to get approved, you have to tell your instructor where you're going to be writing, and we'll send them a letter and find out who they are and everything else. So it is possible to have your employers do it, possible to have lawyers or school districts take care, or lawyers, librarians or school districts, they can also take care of this for you. However, you have to double check with your instructor. Don't just assume that you've asked your friend Bob and Bob's going to invigilate, that he'll be accepted as an invigilator. And I think that's it. As you go through this course, it's stressful and you'll feel uncomfortable. And just remind yourself that that's exactly where you're supposed to be. And that by the time you get to the end of it and you've actually assimilated the learning, you'll realize that this was actually not a big deal. It was felt like a big deal at the time. And as you get through, you think, wow, remember when this stuff was hard. So just in summary, these are the points I wanted to say. Follow the course and the instructions from the beginning to the end, because very often as you're going through this, and there may be practice assignments or practice quizzes, very often you can't write the final exam or other marked quizzes until you finish the practice quizzes. So there's been a number of instances where students come up to write their final exam with me from other courses, and they go to write it and it's not there. And then we realize, oh, they haven't actually written the prerequisite quizzes, the practice quizzes that were listed as being required. So then they have to spend the next hour zipping through trying to finish all this stuff up and then go into the quiz before they can get out. Read everything in the course, do everything in the course, plan your time. And one of my friends who was in the military and fought in Afghanistan, and she has an expression and she just says, chip, chip, chip. Whenever she notices that I'm feeling overwhelmed, she'll just look at me and say, chip, chip, chip. So it just means chip away at everything, chip away at it every day, chip away at it just little piece by piece. My wife has an expression. She says, you can't eat an elephant in one bite, which means that if I look at what I have to accomplish in the next month, it seems so overwhelming. If I can chunk that down to what I just need to accomplish during the day, and if I just set my mind to it at chipping away at these tasks just a little bit every single day, I always get through it. It's the stress that is all in my head that gets me down. Participate in the discussion groups. So ask and respond to the questions. For your final exams, arrange for your final exams early. Many of the institutions, many of the colleges and universities, their exam centers fill up really quickly, especially around April. So halfway through any course that you're in, make your arrangements to write your final exam so that you make sure that you get it in before the course deadline. And lastly, really appreciate where you are. It's a privilege to be able to learn, and the discomfort that you feel is simply your brain going through some retraining. Everyone that does the work will pass the course. That's just a fact. Everyone that does the work passes the course. The only people that are not successful are the ones that take the shortcuts or don't complete the tasks. It's really that simple. So everybody, I hope this video is helpful to at least get you started and let you know what's expected of you. And with that, I think I'm done here. So take care and good luck.